You may be seated. Our scripture reading this morning is from the Gospel according to Luke. Now, each one of the Gospels has its own telling of what happened on that first Easter morning so many years ago. Each one has a little bit different idea and a little bit different recollection of what exactly happened. This year's scripture is how the writer of Luke heard the story that particular morning. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, the women came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly two men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how you were told while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again?" Then they remembered those words, and returning from the tomb, they told all of this to the 11 and to the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them, who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to the apostles to be an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves. Then he went home, amazed by what had happened. Let us pray. Gracious God, we have heard this story so many times. Or perhaps it is new to some of us. Let us open our hearts and open our minds to see the freshness of this passage, even though we may know it well. May the words of my heart and the meditations of all of our souls be acceptable unto you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Most of us have heard this story many, many times. But in each gospel, it's a little bit different. Each gospel was written by a different person at a different time. They were written from stories they had heard told while they lived. Oral stories, oral traditions that they based their life on. Most of the stories have one thing in common. It was women who discovered the empty tomb that morning. Other than that, the stories have subtle differences. In the resurrection story according to Matthew, Jesus was there and confronted the women, even though they did not recognize him. It's understood that the man in the white robe was indeed Jesus. In Mark, the shortest of the Gospels, the resurrection story is also very short and quick and to the point. The women are there, and the man in the white was there, and usually understood to be Jesus. And in John, the women were there, Jesus appeared, and questions were asked. But what's different about Luke? Each gospel, each resurrection story has its own particular message. What is the message that Luke tells us about what happened that morning? The women were there. They couldn't find the body. Again, people appeared, but it's not nearly as clear that these people, the men that were there, was Jesus and just not recognized. Not nearly as clear as the other Gospels. And I think that's the particular message that Luke wants us to understand. The mystery of the resurrection that Luke thought needed to be told. Now, if we go back a little bit, we know the story, right? Jesus brought his disciples to the upper room. They shared a common meal, and after the meal, the first of the first communion services was held. He was betrayed by Judas, taken to the garden. He was arrested. He was put on trial, found guilty, was crucified, dead, and buried. This was not a terribly unusual occurrence. There was many other people. The Bible tells us there was two other people that were crucified at the same time. Everybody knew what was going to happen. These men would die. They would be put into a cave, which was their tomb, would be sealed up to keep the odors out. Women would go back to the tomb to anoint them with spices and put the stone back. But that didn't happen to Jesus. The unexpected happened. Jesus was gone. Things didn't go as the women thought they would, or the apostles thought they would. It almost tells us that in this story. The women were surprised. They were perplexed. Until the man that they saw at the tomb explained to them, don't you remember what he said? He said he was going to rise from the dead. He said he was going to be gone from the tomb. The unexpected had happened, and Jesus wasn't there. Jesus was not where he was put. He wasn't safe in that cave. He wasn't safely tucked away in our churches, safely limited to what was expected of him. He was not limited by the narrow minds of the people then, and maybe even the people now. I think that was what Luke was trying to tell us. Jesus is the unexpected. He was gone. He wasn't there, yet he was all around them at the same time. That's the mystery of this resurrection, according to Luke. that we cannot expect the expected from Jesus. And the man also said, "Look for Christ, not dead, but alive with the living." It was as if to say, don't you get it, you guys? Jesus is with the living, just as he was 2 days ago. Just in a little different form. Now is he not only present in Jerusalem and in Galilee and in all the places that he had visited on the hilltops, with the poor, with the sick, with those who needed him most, but Jesus was everywhere. He was fully still alive, just not where we expected him to be. The mystery of Easter is the surprising message that death is not the end. It is the mystery of our faith and the mystery of faith of all those who lived before us. Jesus has risen again. And the man at the tomb tells us where Jesus went. Not to some lofty place, sitting next to the wise, gray-haired man in the sky, but is right here among us on this earth. Christ is here, within our past, at this present moment, and in our future, where we do not expect it. And we forget that sometimes. We forget that Jesus is with the homeless man, that Jesus is with the sick, that Jesus is where we least expect him to be. Maybe even in the hearts and minds of those who we consider our enemy. We must look for Jesus in the unexpected places, not in the cold, dark tomb. Yes, Jesus is everywhere, and yes, Jesus is in this sanctuary with us. But Jesus is also out there. And often we fail to see it. We only see the empty tomb. We only see our empty churches. We only see the emptiness of young people in our sanctuaries. We like things in a nice, neat order. We like to know what's expected. We like the way things have always been done. The women wanted Jesus to be in that tomb so they could anoint his body and give him the respect and honor in which he was due. Nothing wrong with that. It was a wonderful thing. But boy, Jesus doesn't usually do what we expect. We should know that. Look at all the stories in the Bible where Jesus never did what was expected. And those people of those times didn't like it either. The people in the Jewish temple didn't like the fact that Jesus was telling them to do something that they had never done before. Love your enemies? You've got to be kidding. In Luke's gospel, they don't see Jesus at the empty tomb. And I think that that's what Luke is trying to tell us in this passage. Don't look for Jesus where you expect to find him. Be open to the unexpected. Be open to the new. Be open to the different. It's a scary thing to do. The church is a scary place these days. Numbers are dwindling. Churches are closing. Not because of the faith of those people that are in them and supporting them, but we have to as a people look for Jesus and look for God in the unexpected places. I think that's what the people who don't enter our churches are trying to do, and the lesson that they are trying to teach those of us who enter these doors. There's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with the amazing and elegant traditions that need to be honored in our churches. But we have to do more than that. And when the unexpected comes, when the tomb is empty, it's time to look for the living Jesus in other places. How will we, in the absence of people in this building, be led to share the teachings of this man, this most holy man, the incarnation of God? How will we process and show that faith to the others around? How can we live out what we believe? Where do we look for God and Jesus today? Where do the empty spaces, whether it be in our heart or in our church building, where do we look, and where can we find and see Jesus? Like the women who discovered that empty tomb so long ago, how do we, on this Easter morning in 2016, how do we look for Jesus among the living? I'm asking you today to seek the answers to these questions, to be open to the new and to the unexpected. May our response to the mystery of Easter is to look around us and to see Christ, not only where we expect him to be, but where he is going, where he has been. May we not be shocked, but happily surprised when we find the stone rolled away and the graves empty. For that means that Jesus is not gone, but more present than ever, more present in the world. May we see a liberation in the emptiness of the tomb and in the absence of Christ's body that Easter morning. We are free. We are free, my friends, not only to meet Jesus in the empty tomb, but we are free to meet Jesus everywhere among the living. Amen.